The Galactic Council had gathered in their Grand Hall, a place where decisions that shaped galaxies were made. Today the air was heavy. Delegates from hundreds of species sat in silence, watching the holographic image of Earth spinning slowly above the center table. For years whispers had filled the chambers, talks of human aggression, of dangerous curiosity, of the way humans always turned chaos into victory. Some feared them, others admired them, but most agreed on one thing. Humanity was unpredictable. The council's high speaker, a tall being covered in silver scales, rose from his seat. His voice echoed across the room. After much debate, the council has decided. Earth is hereby exiled from the Galactic Union. Effective immediately, all human colonies, ships, and ambassadors are to withdraw from allied territories. The hall was filled with murmurs, hisses, and faint mechanical clicks from robotic delegates. Some seemed relieved. Others looked uneasy. The human ambassador, Captain Elias Ward, stood alone at the center. He was calm, almost too calm. His blue uniform looked out of place among the shimmering robes and strange skins of the other species. He didn't raise his voice, didn't argue. He only looked around the room, meeting the eyes of those who once called humans friends. "So," he said softly, "you wish for us to leave?" The speaker gave a slow nod. "For the safety of all." Elias took a long breath, and for a moment it seemed he might protest. But instead he simply replied, "Then we will." His words were quiet, but the silence that followed was louder than any explosion. Every translator device in the chamber repeated the same short phrase in 100 alien tongues. Then without another word, Elias turned and walked out. For a few seconds no one spoke. The great doors closed behind the human, and a deep unease settled over the hall. The council members had expected shouting, maybe even a threat. Humans were known for their tempers. But there was none of that. Just calm acceptance. And that frightened them more than any warship could have. On distant planets, the news spread fast. Earth exiled, the galactic broadcasts announced. Humanity removed from council. Some alien citizens cheered. Others lowered their heads. A few even wept quietly, remembering the humans who had helped them in wars, disasters, or during famine. Humanity had built hospitals on worlds where no one else dared to land. They had sent engineers to fix broken reactors and soldiers to defend colonies that weren't even their own. But all of that ended the moment the council cast its vote. On Earth, the message arrived within hours. The people didn't riot. There were no protests, no angry speeches. Instead, a strange quiet covered the planet. Governments spoke privately. Fleets returned home. Colonies began shutting down their embassies one by one. 1 billion voices turned silent together, not in fear, but in understanding. Humanity had been pushed out of the galaxy they helped build. Elias returned to Earth 2 days later. He stood at the edge of the Pacific spaceport, watching the sun rise over the ocean. Around him, human starships stood in perfect rows, their hulls gleaming in the light. Pilots, scientists, and engineers moved with purpose, speaking little. It wasn't sadness in their eyes, it was resolve. Humanity had always adapted. They had survived their own extinction-level events, rebuilt from ashes, and turned pain into progress. Exile was just another challenge. In orbit, the International Command Station lit up with thousands of signals. Orders were sent to all human colonies across the stars. Withdraw immediately. Return home. Prepare for departure. Ships carrying millions began their long journey back to Earth. For outsiders, it looked like surrender. But for humans, it was preparation. The Galactic Council watched through surveillance channels. They saw the human networks go dark one by one. The famous Terran trade routes, once bright with activity, turned into empty lines across the star maps. The Council's leaders felt a strange discomfort, though none of them admitted it. They had expected rage, maybe even attacks, but humanity gave them only silence. Weeks later, a lone alien freighter passed by the Sol system and reported something odd. The human defense satellites were still active, but they didn't respond to any signals. No messages came in or out. The humans had gone quiet, not just from the galaxy, but from communication itself. It was as if they had drawn a curtain around their world and vanished behind it. Inside Earth's orbit, something was happening. Vast shipyards were reactivated. Massive construction rings surrounded the moon. Engines unlike anything the galaxy had seen before began to hum in secret. But no one outside the solar system knew. Humanity wasn't gone, they were building, preparing. Back in the council chamber, the speaker stood again, feeling an ache he couldn't name. "The matter of Earth is closed," he declared. Yet deep inside, even he wondered what silence truly meant when it came from a species like humanity. The stars beyond Earth continued to shine as they always had. But to many, they seemed colder now, emptier somehow. The galaxy had lost something that words couldn't describe. A sound, a presence, a restless energy that had once filled every corner of known space. Entire colonies demanded help to fix their reactors and ships. The council issued orders for more training programs, specialists to replace the humans. But nothing worked. The humans had never shared all their secrets. Their methods were part instinct, part madness, and part something no data could explain. They called it gut feeling, and no other species could copy it. On the galactic news networks, reporters began to ask questions. Where are the humans now? Why are they so silent? Should the council try to speak with Earth again? But when they sent signals to the Sol system, there was no response. Every communication probe that tried to enter human space vanished without a trace. The Stargate that once linked Earth to the central routes had gone dark. It was not destroyed. It was simply off. A few daring traders tried to reach Earth on their own. One of them was a small Keth pilot named Jari. She had once traded with human crews selling minerals and rare spices. She said she missed them, the way they laughed even when they were losing money. She took her old ship and flew toward Sol, ignoring the warnings. After 2 weeks, her last message reached the border relay. "I see the gates. They're empty." Then silence. The council called an emergency meeting. The speaker, his silver scales now dull with worry, faced the chamber. "We cannot contact them. No ship returns. The human systems are closed." A representative of the Varan Union asked, "Have they gone to war with us?" The speaker shook his head. "No. If they wanted war, they would not be quiet." That silence scared everyone more than any weapon could. Meanwhile, across the outer colonies, strange things began to appear. Automated beacons once made by humans started blinking again, sending out old Earth songs instead of messages. One beacon played a soft piano tune that no alien could understand, but all found hauntingly beautiful. It drifted through the stars for days, and many who heard it felt something strange, a sense of loss they couldn't explain. On one of the council worlds, a Luma child asked her teacher why humans didn't fight back when they were exiled. The teacher paused, unable to answer. "Maybe," she said softly. "They didn't think it was worth fighting for." The idea spread like wildfire. Humans, the warriors, the builders, the explorers, had simply walked away. Trade slowed. Morale fell. The council realized too late how much humanity had done. They had been the glue that held together so many worlds, the bridge between races that never trusted each other. Without them, the galaxy began to feel like a house with its lights turned off. In the shadows of deep space, rumors grew. Some claimed to have seen massive ships near the galactic rim, dark silhouettes moving without beacon lights. Others said they had found fragments of human satellites, each marked with strange new symbols. No one could confirm it, but the stories kept spreading. The humans were not idle. They were doing something somewhere. Back on Earth, no one outside knew what was happening. The blue planet had become a secret world. Its gates were sealed, its networks cut from the galaxy. But beneath the clouds, humans worked day and night. Spaceports were full again. Cities near the equator built massive ship engines. The moon glowed with new lights. Humanity was preparing, not for war, but for departure. In the council chambers, the speaker looked up at the hollow map of the galaxy. Where Earth's trade lines once pulsed bright white, now there was only darkness. "They are gone," he murmured. Truly gone. But deep inside he knew it was not true. Humans did not vanish, they never had. They simply moved in silence, waiting for their next step. "I have seen a whole fleet passing near the dark nebula of Tyros. They moved without sound," the pilot said. "Not running, not hiding, just going." His voice shook when he described the size of the ships, each the length of a small moon. The council began to worry. They called another meeting, but no one had real answers. The speaker looked at the gathered ambassadors. "We exiled them," he said. "But now it seems they have exiled themselves from everything." Some wanted to send envoys, but others warned it was too dangerous. "You don't disturb silence that deep," one elder from the Rith species whispered. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, small signs of humanity's departure began to appear. On abandoned colonies, alien explorers found personal belongings left behind. Photographs, small journals, children's drawings taped to walls. On one outpost, a Varan scientist found a message carved into metal. "We forgive, but we do not forget." It sent chills through everyone who read it. Many of the old trade worlds started to feel the loss more deeply. On the planet Veta, where humans once ran the largest medical base, thousands died because no one else knew how to use the Terran medicine synthesizers. On another planet, a reactor meltdown killed hundreds because no alien engineer could understand human safety overrides. It became clear that without humanity's hands, the galaxy was falling apart piece by piece. Despite the growing crisis, humans never replied to any signal. Their silence became a mystery, one that frightened even the strongest races. Some believed humanity was planning revenge. Others thought they had found a way to ascend beyond physical form. But a few, mostly those who had once been their friends, believed something different. They believed humans were simply tired. One of those was Captain Vera Null, a Lyran officer who had fought alongside human soldiers decades ago. She remembered their strange courage, their habit of laughing even when death was close. When she heard the rumors of the great Orcs, she felt an ache she couldn't describe. "They're not running," she told her crew quietly. "They're searching for something better." Her words were recorded and replayed across a dozen star channels. For the first time in years, the galaxy began to question what it had done. On the outer edge of the galactic map, far beyond the known lanes, humanity's great ships gathered, thousands of vessels connected into networks, glowing faintly as energy pulsed through them. They were quiet, efficient, and disciplined. Inside, entire cities lived under artificial suns. Children played in gardens under domed skies. Farmers tended crops that would feed generations. Scientists worked on new engines powered by fusion and gravity itself. Humanity had turned exile into rebirth. In one command deck, Admiral Elias Ward, the same man who once stood before the council, watched the stars on a wide viewing screen. He spoke to his officers in a calm voice. "No transmissions. No replies. Let them wonder. We owe them nothing." His second-in-command, a young woman with gray eyes, asked, "Do you think they'll ever call us back?" Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe. But by then, we'll be too far to hear." The great ships moved slowly but steadily toward the dark gulf beyond the galactic rim. It was uncharted space, a place no living species had ever reached. The humans didn't call it exile anymore. They called it the long voyage. For them, it wasn't an end. It was a beginning. Back in the heart of the galaxy, transmissions picked up strange frequencies, patterns so complex that no species could decode them. Some said it was human communication hidden behind encrypted waves. Others said it was music. One scientist swore he could hear voices whispering through the static saying, "Home is ahead." But when the recordings were replayed, there was only silence. The council's speaker grew restless. "They can't just vanish," he said in a private meeting. "No one disappears without trace." But deep down, he knew humanity could. They had done it before, surviving every war, every disaster, every fall. If any species could slip beyond the stars and start anew, it was them. Months later, a merchant passing near the black gulf of space sent one final report before losing contact. "I saw them. A line of ships stretching across the void, engines burning blue. They weren't running away. They were heading toward something." Then his signal went dead. The galaxy waited for another message that never came. Slowly, even the rumors began to fade. The council declared that humanity was officially lost, but many refused to believe it. Some said you could still see faint trails of their engines if you looked long enough at the edge of space. Others said that in the quiet of certain nights, you could still hear human songs carried by the old radio waves, crossing the endless dark. And somewhere beyond the reach of every telescope, humanity traveled on, silent, determined, and free. Years passed since humanity's quiet departure, and the galaxy began to feel the true price of silence. At first, most believed things would return to normal. The council was confident that other species could fill the space humans had left behind. But slowly, one by one, the cracks began to show. On trade worlds once run by human merchants, supply lines collapsed. Cargo ships broke down mid-flight, unable to repair their Terran-built engines. The humans had shared their tools but never their instincts. Machines that had once obeyed their touch now sat cold, unresponsive to alien hands. Even the automated systems seemed to resist their new masters, as if they too mourned the loss of those who built them. The great medical academies on Sora 9 struggled to create cures without human biologists. The doctors worked day and night, but the progress was slow. Diseases once thought gone began to return. The galaxy had relied too heavily on humanity's fearless curiosity, their habit of diving into danger to find answers. Now that courage was gone. In the council hall, the speaker looked older than before. His silver scales had lost their shine. The chamber was quieter these days. There were fewer delegates, fewer trade deals, fewer smiles. Every time someone brought up the humans, the room fell into a heavy silence. The speaker tried to hide his regret, but deep down, he knew what they had lost could never be replaced. One night, he stood alone in the empty chamber, staring at the glowing hologram of the Milky Way. The old Terran roots were still there, though now dim and lifeless. He whispered to himself, "We thought we exiled them, but it feels as if we exiled ourselves." His words vanished into the vast quiet, unanswered. Across the galaxy, stories about the humans turned into legends. Traders spoke of mysterious figures appearing during disasters, tall silhouettes in old Terran suits, helping repair ships before vanishing into the dark. No one could prove these stories, but they gave people hope. Some said the humans still watched from the shadows, guiding quietly, waiting for something. On the planet Veda, a small colony near Collapse discovered an ancient Terran storage vault buried beneath its soil. Inside were tools, power cells, and a handwritten message burned into metal. "Do not fear the dark. It only waits for those who dare to light it again." The colonists wept when they read it. They repaired their generators using human designs and survived. For them, humanity had never truly left. They had simply trusted others to learn to stand alone. Meanwhile, unrest grew within the council. Some younger races demanded that they try to reach humanity again. "We made a mistake," said Senator Lithor of the Varen. "We treated them as danger when they were our strength." Others disagreed, fearing that if humans returned, they would no longer come as equals. The debates grew heated, but still, no one dared to send a ship toward the Silent Sol system. Then came the storms. Massive solar disruptions began to strike the outer colonies. Communications failed, satellites burned, and trade stopped completely. Many worlds cried for help, but the Council was powerless. The ancient defense systems that humans had built were still standing, but no one knew how to activate them. The Council sent dozens of technicians, yet all returned with the same report. "It responds to no code we know." On one failing colony, a desperate message was sent out. It was not meant for the Council, it was for Earth. "If you can hear us," it said, "we need your help." We were wrong. The signal traveled for months through empty space, bouncing off dark satellites and old relays. No one expected a reply, and yet one came. The transmission was faint, but clear. A calm human voice spoke only 3 words: "We are listening." Then silence again. The Council was stunned. The speaker demanded to know where the signal came from, but no one could trace it. Some believed it was a trick. Others thought it was a sign. The hope spread faster than any rumor before. For weeks, colonies began transmitting messages of apology, gratitude, and longing. They begged for the humans to return, to teach them again, to share their knowledge. But there was no answer after that first message, just the quiet hum of the cosmos. Meanwhile, far beyond the known galaxy, inside the massive human-built Orcs, Admiral Elias Ward listened to the incoming signals. His officers stood beside him in silence. The younger ones wanted to respond, but Elias raised his hand gently. "Not yet," he said. "They have not learned what silence means." He looked out at the sea of stars ahead. "When they remember, we will return." The galaxy continued to struggle. Worlds once bright with trade and laughter grew dim. Factories stopped, hospitals failed, and communication towers went dark one after another. The very civilization that had once judged humanity for its chaos was now falling into quiet disorder. But in the hearts of many, a new feeling began to grow: respect. They began to understand what humanity truly was. Not monsters, not threats, but builders, dreamers, protectors who never asked for worship, only understanding. And so the galaxy waited, somewhere beyond the edge of light, the CE. Hildren of Earth watched, listened, and remembered. Humanity had left in silence, but the stars whispered that silence would not last forever. It had been many long years since anyone had spoken to a human. Most of the galaxy had accepted that humanity was gone forever. Their home system was sealed, their colonies abandoned, and their ships unseen. But one day, a small exploration vessel from the Varan Union detected a strange signal far beyond the outer rim. A faint pulse, rhythmic and deliberate like a heartbeat coming from the edge of the void. Captain Relin Val, the Varan commander, stared at the readings with disbelief. "That's not a natural pattern," he said. "It's made by someone, or something." His crew exchanged uneasy looks. No one traveled that far into the dark. The edge of the galaxy was a dead zone filled with radiation storms and uncharted space. But the signal was there, steady and repeating. Against all warnings, Captain Relin decided to follow it. Their ship, the Starlance, entered the void after 2 weeks of travel. The galaxy behind them grew smaller, the stars fewer. Then out of the endless black, they saw it. At first, they thought it was a planet. Then they realized it was something much larger, a massive structure floating around a red star. It shone faintly like a shell of glass and metal. The scanners struggled to measure it. It was the size of an entire solar system. The crew stared in awe. "A Dyson sphere," whispered one of the scientists. "An artificial star harness." "Impossible." But it was not impossible, it was human. The design patterns were unmistakable. The materials, the geometric layouts, the fusion signatures, all matched human technology, but beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Varan crew was silent. They had come looking for ruins and instead found a miracle. Thousands of energy lines ran across the sphere's surface, forming vast glowing rings. Between them, gigantic ships drifted in formation, fleets larger than any known military in the galaxy. Each one moved quietly without beacon lights, as if sleeping. Captain Relin slowly opened a communication channel. "Unknown station. This is the exploration vessel Starlance of the Varan Union. We come in peace. We only seek contact." His voice trembled slightly. No one expected an answer. But then the comms crackled and a calm human voice spoke through the static. "Varan Union, we remember you," the voice said. It was male, deep and steady, almost emotionless. "You stand at the edge of human space. State your purpose." The crew froze. Hearing a human voice again after decades was like hearing a ghost. Relin's hands shook as he replied, "We thought you were gone. The Council regrets the exile. The galaxy has suffered. We came to ask, can we speak with you?" There was a long pause. The voice returned, softer this time. "We are not gone. We are changed." The signal cut off, replaced by a single message appearing on every screen in the ship. It was written in plain English, "We remember. But we no longer belong." No one spoke for a long time. The words carried a weight that pressed into every heart aboard the Starlance. Then, without warning, dozens of human ships began to move. They didn't attack. They didn't even acknowledge the visitors. They simply drifted past, their enormous forms gliding toward the deeper void beyond the red star. The humans were leaving again, heading even farther away. Captain Relin's crew recorded everything. The structures, the movements, the transmissions. Before they left, the captain made one last attempt. "Human command, please. The galaxy needs you. You built so much. You saved us more times than we can count. Don't leave us like this." For several minutes, there was only static. Then a faint voice whispered through the channel, almost like a sigh. "We left once in silence. Do not ask us to return to the noise." The line went dead. When the Starlance returned to Council space months later, its report caused shock and fear. The humans had survived exile and built something beyond comprehension. Some members of the Council believed it was a weapon, a fortress of revenge. Others thought it was a sanctuary, a new home for a species that no longer trusted the galaxy that had betrayed them. The speaker called an emergency assembly. "If these reports are true," he said gravely, "then humanity has advanced far beyond our understanding. We must decide. Do we reach out to them again or do we leave them be?" The hall filled with arguments. Some said humans had every right to return. Others feared that if they did, they would no longer come as friends. Meanwhile, across the colonies, the message from the Dyson sphere spread through every network. "We remember, but we no longer belong." Those words echoed in songs and prayers and quiet whispers. It made people question everything they once believed about humans. They were not gone out of hatred. They had left out of disappointment. On a small world near the galactic rim, a young alien child looked up at the stars and asked her father, "Will the humans ever come back?" The father smiled sadly. "Maybe one day," he said, "when the stars are kinder." Far beyond, inside the vast human sphere, Admiral Elias Ward stood on a bridge overlooking the red sun. The message logs from the Varan ship played softly in the background. One of his officers asked, "Do you think they understand now?" Elias watched the sun's reflection glimmer across the hulls of 1,000 ships. "Not yet," he said quietly. "But they will. In time." Outside, the great human fleets continued their silent work, building, expanding, preparing for something no one else could imagine. The galaxy thought they had been lost. In truth, humanity had never been more alive. The council chamber was filled once again, but this time there was no pride in the air. The delegates sat in uneasy silence, their faces dimly lit by the holographic projection showing the recordings brought back by the Varan explorers. On the screen floated the image of a vast human-made sphere shining around a distant red star. No one spoke for several minutes. Even the hum of translation devices seemed softer, as if the machines themselves were listening. The speaker stood slowly. His silver scales had dulled with age and regret. "So it is true," he said in a low voice. "Humanity lives, humanity thrives, and they have no need of us." Around him, murmurs spread through the chamber. Some species were frightened. Others were amazed. But most felt something heavier: shame. Years ago, the Council had exiled Earth thinking it would bring peace and order. They believed removing humanity would end conflict and fear. Instead, their civilization had weakened. Trade fell, alliances broke, and innovation slowed. Without humans, the galaxy had lost its fire. And now, seeing what the humans had built in silence, they realized just how blind they had been. Ambassador Tora of the Varan Union stood and faced the speaker. "We must reach out to them again," she said firmly. "We cannot let the past control our future. Humanity has changed, and perhaps we must change too." Her words were met with a mix of support and opposition. "They will not listen," hissed a member of the Rith Collective. "They made it clear. They no longer belong here." Tora replied calmly, "Then at least we should try to understand why." The debate continued for hours. Some demanded that the Council send emissaries to the Dyson sphere. Others argued that doing so might provoke them. But deep down, everyone in that hall felt the same thing: a quiet fear that humanity had grown beyond their reach. Later that night, when the chamber was empty, the speaker remained behind. He stared at the galaxy map, tracing the faint lines that used to mark human trade routes. He whispered softly, "We thought we were protecting the stars from them, but maybe it was they who were protecting us." Far across space, the humans watched in silence. Inside their great sphere, Admiral Elias Ward observed Council transmissions from afar. He saw the debates, the regret, the pleas for dialogue. "They want to talk now," said one of his officers. "Should we answer?" Elias shook his head. "Not yet. They're not asking because they understand. They're asking because they're afraid." He turned to look at the fleets gathering beyond the red star. They had grown larger, more advanced, powered by technology the old galaxy couldn't even imagine. But these weren't warships. They were exploration vessels meant to travel beyond the known universe. Humanity's journey was no longer about revenge. It was about discovery. Back in Council space, the situation worsened. Without humans, certain technologies had begun to fail completely. Gravity stabilizers, once maintained by Terran engineers, now caused accidents on space stations. Planetary defense systems built by human contractors refused to operate. It was as if the galaxy's machines were grieving the loss of their makers. Colonies cried for help, but there was little the Council could do. In desperation, they decided to send one last message into the void. It wasn't a command or demand, it was an apology. The speaker himself recorded it. "People of Earth," he said, his voice trembling, "we were wrong. We judged you for your strength instead of learning from it. We feared your courage when we should have honored it. The galaxy is weaker without you. If you hear this, we ask not for forgiveness, but for a chance to begin again." The message was sent through every known channel, carried by drones and satellites across millions of light years. It reached the edge of the human Dyson sphere and then stopped. There was no reply. The silence returned, colder than before. But a few weeks later, strange things began to happen. The broken reactors on several Council worlds suddenly powered back up. Communication relays repaired themselves. Unknown drones appeared, fixing damaged satellites and vanishing before they could be identified. The Council scientists examined the repairs and whispered in disbelief. This is human work. No message came with the help. No ships, no faces, no voices. Just quiet repairs, gentle and precise. The humans were helping, but from a distance. They had not forgiven, yet they had not turned away completely. The speaker wept when he heard the news. They still care, he said softly, even after all we did. But Admiral Elias Ward, watching from his command deck, understood what it really meant. Compassion is their greatest strength, he said to his officers. And it's what they were exiled for. That irony will never leave them. Years passed and humanity continued to expand beyond the galaxy. Their Dyson spheres multiplied, forming networks of light along the void. They had become something more than just survivors. They were pioneers of silence, builders of peace, explorers of eternity. Back in the Milky Way, statues of humans began to appear on alien worlds, memorials built not out of guilt but respect. Children learned stories of the species that once walked among them, fierce yet kind, feared yet beloved. They called them the Silent Ones. And every so often, when a world was in danger, when a reactor melted or a ship was stranded in the dark, someone would swear they saw a faint light flash across the stars like a beacon. A reminder that somewhere out there, humanity still watched. The speaker grew old and frail, but before his final day, he recorded one last message to be sent into the void. To the people of Earth, wherever you are, thank you. You left us in silence, but taught us what it means to listen. The message drifted away into the black, where no one knew if it would ever be heard. But in the deep unknown beyond all star maps, a soft reply came, barely more than a whisper. We heard you. 100 years had passed since the day humanity left the galaxy in silence. Most species had never seen a human in their lifetime. Their stories had become legends told to children, tales about the people from a dangerous blue world who were brave, clever, and unpredictable. Some called them ghosts, others called them myths. But one truth remained. The galaxy still missed them. Then, one day, everything changed. A dying star in the Zora system began to collapse faster than anyone expected. The star's energy wave threatened to destroy more than 50 inhabited worlds nearby. Every ship that tried to stabilize it failed. No weapon, no shield, no technology could slow the coming disaster. The Council declared an emergency. Billions of lives were at risk, and they had no hope. In the Great Council chamber, now led by the descendants of those who once exiled Earth, the speaker spoke with tears in his eyes. We have done all we can, he said softly. If the humans were still here, perhaps they could have found a way. Across the galaxy, panic spread. Whole planets began to evacuate, but it was useless. The wave would reach them in days. Then, without warning, strange signals appeared across every major communication line. The signals were faint but clear, coded in an ancient Terran format that no one had seen in a century. The technicians stared at their screens in shock. It's human code, one whispered. The Council rushed to the command center, watching as the transmission slowly unfolded. It wasn't words at first, only coordinates, data streams, and energy calculations. Then a short sentence appeared in perfect galactic standard. Hold your ground. Help is coming. The speaker could barely breathe. It can't be, he said. They're gone. But far out in the void beyond the galactic rim, something stirred. The red star that had once powered humanity's great Dyson sphere flared with life. Massive ships began to move, larger than cities, faster than light itself. Fleets of them poured out into the dark, their hulls glowing faint blue as they folded space around them. Humanity had returned, but not as wanderers. They returned as saviors. When the fleets entered the Zora system, they didn't speak or send greetings. They simply acted. Thousands of small drones scattered across space, forming a glowing web around the dying star. Gigantic human vessels deployed strange devices that pulsed with energy. Alien scientists watching the feeds couldn't understand what they were seeing. It was technology far beyond their reach, silent, clean, efficient. Within hours, the dying star stabilized. The wave that was supposed to destroy 50 worlds faded into calm light. Billions of lives were saved. And when it was over, a single transmission was sent to the Galactic Council. The same calm human voice that once said, "We remember," now spoke again. "The storm has passed. You are safe. This is all we wish to do." The council chamber filled with silence. The speaker stood, his hands trembling. "Please," he said into the open channel, "let us speak. Let us thank you." There was a pause. Then the voice replied gently, "There is no need for thanks. We do not help for reward." Tears filled the speaker's eyes. "You left us because we failed to understand you," he said softly. "And yet you still saved us." The reply came after a long silence. "We left in silence, not in hate. We returned in kindness, not in weakness. Remember that." Then the transmission ended. The human fleets turned and vanished into the void once more. No trace, no signal, no lingering lights, just peace left behind. Across the galaxy, the reaction was unlike anything seen before. Entire worlds held vigils. Children drew pictures of humans standing under twin suns. Poets wrote songs about the silent kindness. The same species that had once voted to exile humanity now built monuments in their honor. Every city erected a statue of a human hand reaching toward the stars. On the council's central world, the speaker stood beneath one such monument, a figure of a human in an old Earth flight suit, gazing skyward. He looked up and whispered, "You could have destroyed us. Instead, you saved us. You truly are beyond us now." Far beyond, within their hidden civilization, Admiral Elias Ward, long since gone but remembered through his lineage, had left behind a message that all humans learned as law. Do not return in anger. Let silence be our peace. If the stars ever call, answer not with pride, but with grace. Humanity had followed that message for generations. Inside one of the human ships now traveling through new galaxies, a young girl looked out a viewing window.
"Father," she asked, "why did our people help them again after what they did to us?"
Her father smiled softly and said, "Because that's who we are. They may have forgotten us once, but we never forgot what it means to care." She looked out into the endless stars, her reflection shining on the glass. "Will we ever go back?" she asked. Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. "Maybe one day when they've learned not to fear the things that make them different. Until then, we watch, we listen, we build." And so humanity moved on again, farther into the unknown, their great fleets leaving trails of light that faded into the eternal dark. The galaxy they left behind continued to tell stories about them, stories of the day when the humans came back, not to fight but to save. In the Council's archives, one last human message was preserved forever. It appeared the morning after the rescue, written in soft blue light across the main hall floor. "We are children of Earth. We walk among the stars. We remember you, not as enemies but as lessons. Be kind, as we have learned to be." The council members stood before those glowing words, silent and humbled. For the first time in galactic history, the hall that once exiled Earth was filled not with power or fear, but with gratitude. And somewhere beyond the farthest light, humanity watched quietly, knowing they had finally given the galaxy the greatest gift they ever could: peace born from silence.